to another episode of Pacific Matters. My name is Tomas Manglona. So glad you can join us. We've got a packed show for you today. For our first segment, we're going to head to the shores of Saipan. We're going to meet Ed Manabusan, who's the mind behind the brand Saipan Surf Company. His goal is to revive the surfing culture and lifestyle in the Sinamay. Here's more.
Hi, my name is Ed Manabusan, founder of Saipan Surf Company. Originally from Saipan, born and raised here in Saipan. I went to school in Mount Carmel, went to UH, the University of Hawaii in Manoa. And then after that, did some schooling out in Oregon. But when I moved out to Hawaii, I never knew how to surf, never picked up a board, never did any of that. But it was my cousin, Frank Cabrera, who he's the founder of Magas, and he's the one that really took us out every weekend, before class, things like that. Just kind of took me out there surfing, me and my cousin. So that's how I really picked up surfing. And actually I really like body surfing. So I'm the guy out there here in Saipan. If you go out there, I'm the guy with just fins and a McDonald's tray. That's me. I'm not really good with the board or anything, but I do love the sport of surfing, and that's really what made me want to do this. We just moved back, my family and I have a beautiful wife and 2 sons. We just moved back from Oregon last year in March. And I was really surprised at how many people were surfing. It was really cool to see a lot of females out there, a lot of kids. So I just kept thinking, this is something I kind of like thought about out in Oregon too, just do something like that where I can promote surfing, but also help promote the sport to the sea and mind, just get more people out there in the water. And I think to me, it was also a way to promote the CNMI as far as ecotourism. Bring the tourists back. Back in the 90s, I still remember vividly that we had a thriving windsurfing scene out here. There's a lot of people. We also had a lot of tourists, and I just wanted to bring that back. And it was really cool when we moved back, just to see all these surfers out here. And I just want to keep pushing the sport and just let people know that, hey, we got some other activities out here that we can do. One of the best things about surfing, or one of the coolest things about surfing, is that you're trying to harness the power of nature. A lot of surfers here that I know, and pretty much every surfer, fisherman, they all know how awe-inspiring, how powerful the ocean is. And to be able to, in a small way, kind of harness that, and maybe even, it's almost like an out-of-body experience when you're riding on a wave. And also, like when you're in a barrel, there's nothing like that feeling. It can be a very dangerous sport, but if you're just careful out there, you understand kind of your surroundings, take other people's advice, but it's just such a fun sport, man. I don't know, there's really nothing like it. I went to the University of Hawaii at Manoa, went to school there, and one of the first things my cousin took us out to do was go surf. So we would surf Sandy's, Makapu, Point Panic. Those are really, really awesome surf spots to go and learn, how to do it. My favorite spot is Aquarius. I think it's a good spot for beginners, and it's also a good spot for even more seasoned surfers. There's a couple different breaks out here, and it's all sand also, so it's fairly safe. You're not crashing on the reef or anything. You don't have to worry about that. You do have to worry about the current, but Aquarius is one of my favorites. Obzan Beach is another fun spot. A lot of the guys that I saw growing up were surfing at Obzan, bodyboarding at Obzan, and it can get pretty dangerous out there. I think that's probably a little bit of part of the thing that makes surfing fun, is that there's a little bit of danger to it. There is some excitement and there's some thrill to it. There's also another spot that I know about is the Balisa over there in the beach road. It's the lighthouse. Guys go out surfing out there, and there's also another surf spot. I've never surfed it myself. It's outside of Maniaga. They call it Lanyas. Yeah, so that's a pretty cool spot. It's mostly really just promoting the sport, getting kids into it. I don't teach any classes or anything like that, but it's really more of on a promotional side, and just kind of help our surf culture, put it out there, let people know that, hey, you can come to Saipan to surf too, It's not just going to the hotel and going to a water park or anything like that. I would just say, just be very careful and be cautious, Even though the waves might look small, it's really the rip currents that you have to watch out for, and that's all over here. Every channel here, even what looks like it might be a safe surfing location, but just get in the water and try it out. Follow someone that probably knows what they're doing. You can DM me, just let me know, help you out. But yeah, just have a respect for the ocean, have a respect for, Mother Nature basically, and just be really careful and cautious when you go out there, and have someone watching your back. just to watch and make sure. And usually when it's a good time to go surf, it's when you see a lot of people out on the water. You see surfboards on cars. Those are kind of the signs like, hey, it's a good time to probably go pick it up. And I'll loan you a board. It's all good with me. For the most part, it's been really positive. A lot of my buddies, they're actually entrepreneurs as well, who are all about that salt life, that salt life culture, and surfing's just one of them. There's guys like Shane at Royal Soil, Joe at Salty Skin Pacific, Dave at Local Bones. They're all surfers, avid surfers, and there's a lot of people out here that enjoy surfing. There's a crew called the Salty Bandits. Those guys are pretty awesome guys, man. Those guys fish, but those guys are all awesome surfers too. So for the most part, it's been really positive, especially within the surfing community itself. I think it's just a matter of letting people know, that hey, you can do this too. It's not just one of those one-off type of sporting events. Like, it's here. We have the ocean. Whenever there's waves, it's a pretty good time to just go and experiment a little bit. But if you're really cautious, I think you'll be okay. Just have someone watch your back all the time. Have a buddy. I want to give a big shout out to my cousin Peter Adon at Marianas Arts. He came out with my logo and the designs. Thanks so much, bro. I just want to say thank you to everybody, everybody that's been supporting me through this journey of just learning how to promote a brand and just go out there and promote Saipan. I think that's my biggest goal, is just let's go out there, promote Saipan, the Marianas in general. I love home, I love being home, and I just want people to come here and know what we have to offer, and that's my biggest thing about this company, but also just in general. It's just me. I just feel like, just enjoy, come and see what we have to offer, because there's a lot.
All right, thanks so much, Ed, and best of luck to Saipan Surf Company. When we come back from the break, we're sitting down with a Micronesian organization who got $6 million from a generous donor. Welcome back. Imagine getting $6 million. That's what Micronesian Conservation Trust received from Mackenzie Scott. Here's our interview with the organization.
We were overwhelmed when we first got the call. We couldn't believe it. It was hard to believe that, because we didn't solicit the support or the funding grant. We didn't go through an application process, so it was really a great surprise.
And can you tell us a little bit about the Micronesia Conservation Trust? We know that you do work in the Federated States of Micronesia, the Republic of Palau, the Marshall Islands, Guam, and even in the Sinai, where I'm calling from now. What is the mission of the Micronesia Conservation Trust?
Thank you. So we're a conservation organization, as in our name, and we've been supporting community groups and governments, especially the local governments and the community organizations, who implement conservation work on the ground, including biodiversity conservation, climate change adaptation, fisheries management, invasive species management and eradication, and other sustainable livelihood programs across Micronesia. So we provide grants and the capacity building that the organizations that receive the grants from us require.
And what will this money be used towards? $6 million. What is the typical MCT budget? Is this well beyond that? What is now the plans for MCT to use this award?
Yeah, so the board is elected to put it into a reserve fund, and every year we will use the dividends from this fund to support some of the work that we normally can't consistently support through the grants that we receive from other donors. Because of this, this grant is unrestricted grant, we are able to be flexible with it. And so we will be able to do annual calls for proposals. And normally we don't have annual calls for proposals because we do the calls for proposals as grants come in, and they're not always consistent. And so we will be able to support more of that work. And sometimes there are really great ideas that come in, really innovative ideas, and we want to support those, regularly. And and of course, we do have our capacity needs. So when we have looked for money for trainings for ourselves and our partners, that's the funds have not always been there, but with the funding, we will be able to do consistent capacity and training for our own staff and the staff of our partners.
And so, can you tell us more about? You said you didn't seek this out. So, for those who are not familiar, I guess what was the process of receiving this, or how did you end up on their radar?
We still don't know. We were contacted by a third party who told us that there was an anonymous donor who was interested and had been looking at the work that we've been doing over the years. And so they requested some information from us on the organization and the types of projects that we want to fund or want to support in across Micronesia, but didn't have the funding. And so we put together, I think it was a 3-pager, and submitted to the third party. And then it took maybe 2 months before we were contacted by, um, the staff of Miss Scott.
And what exactly does this mean? It might go without saying that a lot of these programs, need these critical funding, but why is it important that these types of efforts get funded?
Well, I mean, MCT works in all 5 jurisdictions in Micronesia, and we're supporting the local efforts, especially with the communities, and their efforts to manage the resources. And we've done a lot of work through a lot of grants that we've been able to bring over the years, but it's not always consistent because the grants come in. They're usually 3-year grants, sometimes 1-year grants, and they come and they go. But with this funding, we will be able to have better planning around it, and be able to really, um, you know, be consistent with how we're supporting those local efforts. So this is what this funding means to us and to all those we serve.
All right, that's all the questions I had. Is there anything else you want to add about this gift or the mission behind MCT?
Well, the board and the staff and all our partners are really grateful to Miss Scott and her team. And, we have no words to describe how grateful we are um, with her support. She's a really generous lady, and a very smart person. So we are quite excited, and we know that this gift is going to make um, some real changes within our organization, but more importantly, with the communities that we serve.
Congrats to MCT. We'll have more after this break. Back to Pacific Matters. In our next segment, so we're going to hear from voices from the Marianas who recently traveled to Palau to shake up the conversation about climate change at the recent Our Ocean conference. Former Secretary of State John Kerry, who's now the current climate envoy, was there in person, and President Joe Biden also delivered remarks of his own. First up, here's Representative Sheila Babauta sharing her perspective on the climate change efforts.
In the Mariana Islands, we have a very unique relationship with the United States. The island of Guam is a US territory and has her own relationship with the US, while the remaining islands of the Northern Mariana Islands form a commonwealth, and we are in political union with the United States. So although we have different political statuses with the US, we make up the same archipelago, we are part of the same chain, and we make up the Mariana Islands. Several years ago, 2015, there was an announcement that troops were being moved from Okinawa to Guam. And that movement, although that movement was happening to our sister island, it greatly impacted the entire archipelago, our entire chain. And so this announcement was made, and proposed plans were shared with the community that were very destructive to our ocean, our marine mammals, our land, our sacred land, and our airs, our skies. And my community was outraged. So they organized, and they had to organize the Western way, which was very stressful. It took a lot of energy, it took a lot of time, but the women led the way and were able to collect over 30,000 public comments to oppose these plans. And fast forward to 2 weeks ago, we got news from the Department of Defense that major items were taken off the table in these plans. And although that is good news, that's a good step forward, we have yet to still see the entirety of the plan and see the larger picture, because we also don't support moving destructive activities, training and testing to other parts of the world. And so, you know, this kind of engagement where an announcement is made and then the community is almost forced to engage in that way is so much for a community to handle, especially a community like mine, where we are recovering from 2 super typhoons. We have a pandemic, we have a lot of political turmoil, and so I really would like to offer a different approach to engaging with traditional communities and with indigenous populations. Instead of making announcements, come to the table, sit down, preferably outside near the ocean. That's where we make our best decisions. And listen. And listen to the indigenous community. Listen to their struggles, listen to their successes, listen with respect and compassion and curiosity. There's so much that we can learn from indigenous communities and indigenous leaders. And then as a leader, respond to their needs versus coming in and telling the community, this is what we're going to do, tell us if you like it or not. And so there are different ways to engage with the community, and I really encourage our leaders, our legislators, policymakers to reimagine engagement and keep that in mind, keep the community in mind, because there's so much already happening. And in my community, many families are focused on stabilizing the home, let alone, you know, thinking about militarization and climate change. We're just trying to feed our family. And so that's really important to keep in mind when you're engaging with indigenous communities.
And in our next segment, continuing from our coverage from the Palau Our Ocean Conference, Kailani Rages from Guam and the Sinamai advocating for more youth inclusion in climate change conversations. Here's that story.
Hafade, Tirawami, and Ali, everyone. My name is Kailani Rages, as you just heard, and I am a Chamorro podcaster and future coral reef ecologist, as well as the founder of the grassroots organization, the Deep Pacific Collective. The group, which I founded in 2020, activates Pacific people to empower their communities through talking story and hearing others. I was chosen as a youth delegate, specifically because I said in my application that the Our Ocean Conference is a place that needs stories, because everyone has an ocean story. We are in desperate need of more diverse stories like mine, not just statistics and facts, but stories of ocean innovation, adaptation, and resourcefulness. You can find all of that right here in this room. Many people have spoken about empowering or activating the youth. I believe if we want to empower youth in our communities, the first step is to listen and truly hear us. We all must unleash a flood of ocean stories like this, and we must make efforts to perpetuate knowledge sharing by telling our stories and creating new ones if we are to continue having the audacity, as President Barack Obama once said, to remain hopeful in such times. Youth of diverse backgrounds have so much to bring to these discussions. And in creating my collective, I situated myself among those who share the same love for the ocean and advocate in unique ways towards a peaceful, prosperous, and connected Pacific that is equitable, culturally grounded, and inclusive. Something that, since the age of colonialism began, has become fragmented more and more. I actually don't call myself an activist, but rather an advocate. I've made it a part of my life's mission to advocate for and with young people of the Pacific, to believe in their power through hearing other islanders speak about their experiences, especially in my home islands, the Marianas, the Commonwealth of the Marianas, where I'm from, as well as Guam, where I currently reside. But I never thought this was my calling. That's because I am drawn to that feeling of wonder that happens while submerged and while I'm looking at my favorite sea creature or coral. Something that we might all relate to. Chasing that wonder and embracing my curiosity, really, has guided my life's decisions, along with the deep love of the sea instilled in me by my upbringing as a Micronesian daughter. I must praise beautiful Belau, its people, and the Our Ocean team for putting together this conference, this long-awaited conference, and giving young people a larger voice and role than they've ever played at past conferences. Palau has set the bar for how they treat their own and other countries' youth. Stephen Victor, Palau's Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries, and the Environment, appealed to two values at One Young World's COP26 panel on Indigenous knowledge for climate change action. One being respect and the other being responsibility. We respect the efforts those before us took to give us a world better than what we have today. However, we are passing a world to the next generation different from the one that we inherited. We hold that collective responsibility of making or advocating for change in our own communities. To this end, I want to introduce something novel that has never been done, and that is the youth delegates' collective commitment. We propose the formation of a task force of previous Our Ocean youth delegates that facilitates the further integration of young people. This will ensure the continuity and passing of knowledge from conference to conference and youth inclusion in the dialogues and decision-making processes. This inclusion should be done from the strategic planning phase and should not be tokenistic. We came to this consensus through our involvement in the 7th Our Ocean Conference, our participation in the plenary as speakers, and from our experiences as leaders in our own communities. Palau has raised the bar, and we urge future Our Ocean Conference organizers to continue and improve upon this tradition of youth inclusion.
Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Pacific Matters. Hope to see you right here next week.